Joined via Skype by Fedsas Deputy CEO Dr. Jaco Deacon. Dr. Deacon, a very good morning to you. Thanks for your time this morning. Can you elaborate for us what are your concerns about this new system?
Good morning, thank you. It's threefold. Number one, we didn't get a proper opportunity to address the concerns about the flaws in the previous year's system. The department merely made a presentation without properly engaging stakeholders on the pros and the cons of the system. So the same flaws will probably be, again, part of this year's online system. Number two, and that's our biggest concern, is that parents don't have an option to choose the language of education for the children. That will create confusion, and that will put a lot of undue stress on both learners, governing bodies, and again, the resources of the state. And number three, we are concerned that not all the parents will have access to the online system as previous years, and that those concerns aren't really addressed.
All right, just looking at what the department has had to say, just to go back to that third point that you made, they do say that parents who don't have access to the internet or need some help should go to the application centres or community libraries. Do you not think that that's viable? Do you not think that that can happen?
I think it's a good start, but the problem is the system works on a first-come, first-based system. So if you don't access the online system as soon as possible and register as soon as possible, your child won't be number one or number two in the line. So if I don't have access at 8 o'clock when the registration process starts, I'm already in a disadvantaged position.
All right, and you mentioned firstly that you were concerned about the same flaws from last year. Would those still be the issues of access and language, or are there other concerns?
Our biggest concern, not about the system, about the whole process, is the fact that parents cannot choose a language. Now, with both Afrikaans schools, English schools, and with the introduction of the incremental African language in schools, it's vital for parents to know what's the language option that will be offered by the schools. That you do that you do choose the correct language for your child, whether it's Afrikaans, English, or one of the African languages for your child. It's your constitutional right to do that. The problem in Gauteng is not only the space of the learner or enough space, it's also about the quality of education, and not all the schools offer good quality education, and that's additional pressure on the good performing schools.
What about, Dr. Deacon, those who might think that, you know, this really shouldn't matter if we look at the case that happened earlier this year, where those children were sent to the closest school to them, which happened to be an Afrikaans medium school, and then the department embroiled in that court battle over that, saying that they would make a plan to have these children taught in English perhaps, but do you think that maybe that is the reason that it really shouldn't matter as to what the language is, that the department will make a plan for those kids because they don't want them to have to travel kilometers to go to school?
The problem, if you look at the court ruling, is that the plan the department made was to force an Afrikaans school to accept learners from another language whilst they were placed at English schools nearby. And the court specifically ruled on that. You cannot put more children into a school when you've already reached the capacity. And that will be one of the biggest challenges for this year as well, the capacity of the quality schools.
So it's not a concern about having kids who speak other languages coming in and taking up space at, for example, Afrikaans medium schools?
No. If there's a space and if it's practical that the school can accommodate the second language, then the department must engage with the school governing body and the school community, and the language policy can change. So it is about access, and we will advise our members in that regard as well. But the most important thing is that we do follow the correct procedure as set out in the SA Schools Act.
All right, when you say you advise your members, in what way? What would you tell them?
Well, we've been advising them to make sure that if the learners start to enroll, that you do have a proper admissions policy, number one, that you know, number two, what's the capacity of your school, and that if you do make decisions, it should be on a rational basis with the best interest of the child in mind.
All right, so you would say if you have the space, then take the child.
Indeed, and that's the advice we'll give our members, provided that both the school as well as the department follow the correct procedure.
Dr. Deacon, just given your concerns about this entire system, what would you as Fedsas propose as a registration system? What would be a less troublesome process for you if you had to implement one?
Well, the first one is not the electronic system. The electronic system can only provide access to the number of schools you have in the province. And we don't have enough schools in Gauteng. So the point of departure should be to provide enough space for learners in the schools, then the electronic system wouldn't be an issue. So the issue is not electronic, the issue is capacity of the schools and the availability of good quality schools in the province. And I think that's been the biggest challenge, and we haven't seen enough done by the department or the state to address that specific problem. So the online solution won't really fix that problem.
All right, so we know that this goes live in just under 2 hours or so. Are you sort of waiting to see what happens, or are you planning to engage the department about your concerns at this, although it might actually be a little too late?
Well, it's too late to address the department. They're not really willing to listen or to engage. They want to inform their partners, not to engage their partners. So we'll monitor the system. We'll keep on advising the schools, but I think the most important thing now is for parents to register. If you know about the language option offered by the schools, apply at those schools where you know they'll offer the language that you want your children to be taught in, number one. Number two, make sure that you do understand the online registration process. You merely register online, but you still need to go to that school or the 5 schools of your choice and submit documentation. You get a reference number and an SMS. Keep those documents that if there's a dispute, that you do have proof that you have registered on time.
All right, thanks very much for your concern, Fedsas Deputy CEO Dr. Jaco Deacon there. We're back after the break.